and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent Podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is Dave Warburton, and today I'm joined only by Mr. James Kendall. Ian is... Where is Ian today? He's out. I think he's got something on with...
He's probably going on holiday, mate, to be fair.
Yeah, he is going on holiday tomorrow. He's got family commitments, as I think Michelle has. So it's just myself and JK, no special guests. So probably you might want to switch off now. We'll see. We'll see how this episode goes.
Why don't we just add in some impressions of Michelle and while we're on here? Oh, good week, lads. Great week, lads. I don't know where it's from that time.
Is that Michelle when she wakes up?
Yeah.
No, so hopefully we're just going to obviously run through the market conditions, talk about some of our experiences in the last few weeks, I think, and how we're finding things. And hopefully you will get some value out of that. But the first things first, as always, JK, how the hell has your week been?
Yeah, all right, mate. To be fair, been busy with valuations and sign-ups. We've got quite a lot actually coming on in our gold dust, lads, in that region. So for anyone that's new listening, just wondering what I just did there, the gold dust region is something I personally call and founded between 500 and £1 million. That range there, the sweet spot, the 2% fees for the homes that tend to turn over very, very nicely. So today, is it today? Have we got to take
Thursday,
it today?
mate. Thursday.
No, it's next week. It's next Thursday. I'm getting my dates mixed up. Today we haven't got a shoot. We had a shoot yesterday, actually at an old barn. So that was nice. And then we've got one tomorrow, another gold dust house, 750. We've got another one on Monday. It's going to be like 475, really nice sort of 1930s herringbone floor kind of vibe, semi with a nice big garden. Speaking of Michelle, we've actually got Michelle coming to the office next week as well to come and do a big training day with the team, which I'm looking forward to. Had a new starter yesterday as well. Actually quite a lot happening actually. Got a farmhouse take on next Wednesday, taking on a nice Victorian place next Thursday. So yeah, I mean, there's to be honest, there's quite a lot in the diary at the moment. We're packing it out with take-ons. Sales haven't been too great in the last week, but what we have been doing, I do think there will be value on the pod is price realignments and changing up the prices. And that's really starting to generate some interest, getting those price realignments. And I think if you're listening to this, you've got to, and we'll unpack it later on, but having conversations with people. And also, I think you said it a couple of weeks ago, Dave, and I kind of took note on it, where the new homes that you're going to, you really are going in hard on price, because when it comes on the market, you don't want to be going, oh, right, great, we've launched, we've had 2 viewings at the start, you've done a pre-launch strategy, it's not going anywhere, and we're waiting another 8 weeks to reduce by 50 grand. Like, we're just ripping the Band-Aid off early, having that conversation up front. The pre-launch is great for that. But yeah, listen, let's unpack that later. Tell me how your week's been, mate. Let me tell me, are you negotiating 7 offers this week?
Let me just count up the offers. I've got it on my screen in front of me. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 offers. No, there's not. There's not 7 offers. There's actually 8 offers that we are negotiating across 5 houses, JK. So I'll be a bit more specific.
Are 7 people still waiting for a call back from the last 4 weeks? Is that what it is?
I'll be honest, I don't even know who they are. I don't know who these people are, so forget that. No, so we are having, things are good where we are at the moment. As I say to everybody, people always keep saying to me, how is the market? And I always say to them at the moment, if anyone's telling you the market is terrible, I just don't believe them. I think they're just using it as an excuse. It's quieter in certain areas. What I would say, JK, a bad market is something like a recession market where people can't afford to buy. But the reality is banks are lending. All the statistical data shows you that buyers are buying. We are just transitioning into a new market. And in many, many areas, there is an element of the unknown. And you've got to try and factor that in. You've nailed it a few times, talking about trying to get people on different pricing bandings and stuff like that. But this is not a market for testing the water. It just isn't. You know, if you test the water in a falling market, the likelihood is you're going to give away equity by waiting to drop your price. And the good thing I would say about this market as well, JK, where we've had some properties reduce significantly before they sell, is that they are brilliant test cases to show clients. And I can think of 3 really good examples right now where, you know, telling stories in valuations really, really helps. The first one in particular, you know, this is a property that started life at 850. Oh, in fact, it was at 900,000. And the guy, you know, as a business owner, I always look at this and say, is somebody motivated to sell this property at some point in the future? You know, you take a commercial decision. And he definitely was. He'd already bought his second home. It was going through. He didn't want to sit on this property and have it rented out or anything like that. It was always going to be sold. And all the data told me last year, 800 to 850. And we had that conversation. And he said, oof, right. Well, the lady across the road who owns an estate agency suggested it was worth 900 plus. He didn't want to use her. He felt there was a conflict of interests and stuff. He said, I'd like to start it off as over 9. And I was just, right, I'm not sure about this at all. I don't think it's going to go, but it's something that he needed to get out of his system, which he did. He dropped it to 850 after about 3 or 4 months. He then dropped it to 800 and it sold last week for 760,000, which is a massive, massive drop. And honestly, I feel that if he'd gone on the market at the numbers that we'd properly discussed last year, he would have sold that house. It's not a great result. On the surface, for Burton James, that might look like a bit of a bad result in the end, because it was, you know, on the market at 9. It's been agreed at like £760,000. It's a huge drop. But ultimately, I look at it and I take a business decision. And I say it wasn't my price anyway. And what it has also done is given me an absolutely perfect test case to show people. A great example of waiting and giving away equity, because I am absolutely convinced he would have sold that for 800 plus had he done it right away last year.
Yeah.
The other thing is the power of the pre-launch, JK. Obviously, the way we do things, obviously going out to valuations at the moment and talking about not worrying about the price, seeing what the feedback is before you actually go to Rightmove. We've obviously got a specific strategy that we share with our members and launch to the market. And this is just brilliant for homeowners because it gives them an opportunity to see what's happening. And we've had 2 cases in the last month, which I think have been really, really good. One where all the data suggested £550,000. They'd had agents tell them £600,000. And we did a proper pre-launch, had tens of thousands of impressions on their advert. And the feedback overwhelmingly was that 550 was probably punching in this market. So we went back to that particular client before we launched to Rightmove and just said, look, you know, this is the feedback. We've had 50,000 or so impressions on it, which we had. And we showed them sort of the video reception and things like that. And you now need to decide what is your priority. Is it getting to this new destination that you go into, which they want to be in September? Or is it maybe an extra £25,000? Is that going to significantly alter your life? Only you will know. You let me know what you want to do. I'm happy to try it at 550, but the market suggested that that's stretched. Following a 24-hour sort of thought process, they said, no, I think we will be a bit more keen. And we did offers over 5. I tied that up last night at 515, which is market value. And then the other one, it went the other way. You know, we had another property that's been one of our most successful pre-launches ever. The market suggested on this particular house, it was £700,000. We did a pre-launch on it. It was unbelievable, the response. We did loads of viewings before it went to Rightmove. And when we actually got ready to launch to Rightmove, it was the opposite conversation. We were saying, do you know what? I think this house is going to be a bit low on the 700 side, so let's push it a little bit. And we did. We pushed it to 750 and it sold at 735. So the homeowners are delighted. And it's just all about managing the expectations, JK. I just find that buyers are out there certainly where we are up north in abundance, it's about managing the pricing and managing the strategy. And one of the members, I'll not name her, she probably won't be bothered, but you'll probably know who it is in the group, has had some amazing success over the last couple of weeks, just getting the price points right, being quite aggressive. She's taken one or two, I think, off other agents where they've not been able
aggressive,
to have these.
probably the wrong word.
What do you mean?
Proactive, aggressive.
No.
Get your price right, mate. All right, or I'll fill you in.
No, yeah, she wasn't threatening to beat the owner up or anything like that, but aggressive with the pricing strategy because she knows it's the right thing. And she's reported this week that she's done like 2 or 3 different open houses almost on these 3 different homes with like 15, 20 viewings, well over asking price. It just works if you can get the strategy right. And I've spoken many times in the past sort of 12, 18, 24 months about a recession-like feel to the market. And it still does have that. And it's not by way of numbers, it's by way of buyer behavior. So I think that if people can adopt that mindset and understand exactly what's happening, then they'll have a lot more success when it comes to listing properties at the right price and getting homeowners to reduce. And I've just realised that you asked me how my week's been. And I've just gone off on a bit of a tangent.
The podcast.
Yeah. But no, so lots of offers. We've done 5 take-ons, I think, 5 take-ons. We've got loads in photography as well. To be honest, we are crazy busy at the moment and doing our best to manage the workload. I can't get a valuation in for a couple of weeks. Take-ons, same. So yeah, it's all good. But the overall sort of message from me, really, and how I'm feeling about things is, one of positivity, and I just think it's all about managing expectations. JK.
Just on the subject of the market, I was chatting to Gatesy the other day, and he was going through the data, which you might be surprised to learn, and he said that withdrawals are down massively, and the sentiment I think seems to be in the market at the moment is that people are getting real with the market rather than just taking it off and trying again. Because I think the stat is 40% of withdrawn stock comes back on the market within 2 years. And I think those same old people that are withdrawing and coming back on and withdrawing and coming back on are kind of breaking the cycle now and going, actually, how long are we going to keep withdrawing and trying to get this price that doesn't exist? Just to go back on what you were saying about valuations, I think the agents that are winning in this market, and my success rate has been phenomenal recently with because I've been doing all the vals in my business recently, and our success rate and conversion rates through the roof at the moment. And I'm just finding the conversations I'm having with people when I go out into the living room is very much like it's always a strategy meeting. It's never a valuation. It's not what I think it's worth, not what they think it's worth. It's very much all about the strategy. What does the market data say? And as you've said before, countless times, mate, people want to know you're an expert. They want to know you know what you're talking about. And our direct mail landed. I mean, there was a post on LinkedIn the other day that Gatesy tagged us in. Obviously, you wouldn't know because you don't use LinkedIn. But there was a reply on there about direct mail. And I just sort of add my 2 pence in about direct mail because, I mean, I have had 3 or 4 appraisals this week where the valuations have come as a result of the direct mail. And basically the conversations have gone along the lines of, how's the market? What's the market doing? One guy said that, he loves the kind of, I suppose, the tell it as it is nature of the letters. He said you hear a lot of things from a lot of people. You get usual flyers through the door. We can sell your house. We're open 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, free valuation, free floor plan, free accompanied viewings. And then you get other people that try and sell you the dream. They had that last time when they moved. And he said, I just love the nature of, this is actually what's going on. This is what it means. And then when he asked me the question about how the market was, basically a carbon copy of what you just said, mate. Now is not the time to test a price. This is where the data says this was a estate home, really nice, sort of neo-Georgian style, I guess you could call it. 3,000 odd square feet, really good looking, loads of curb appeal. I think it would sell really, really well. I thought it would probably start with an 8. The one that just sold was very, very late 7s. But I think their plot's better, their kitchen's better. So to quote one of my really good friends from the north, that valuation part is subjective. And
Very
and he's, which he, again, you talk about when people nod along, when you did your pitching piece at the last mastermind, and you said, how people nod along. I've really started noticing how certain things that you say, and because I can remember doing valuations as little as maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where sometimes you'd be a bit of a standoff with the sellers, where you're going, well, I think it's worth this, and I sell a lot of £1 million houses. I think your house is worth X, and then they go, well, actually, we think it's worth X. Another agent said X. And the whole valuation process and the way that I've now had to relearn and rethink about how I do things is completely changing, because it's not even a conversation anymore. And I even address it in the room and say, it's not me and you. It's not me versus you. It's me and you versus the market.
Yeah, 100%.
This is what we're going to do, and this is what the market says.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly it. And as soon as you can master the art of taking it away from opinion-based valuations, and what I mean by that is the opinion of yourself and the opinion of the homeowner, because those are the two that don't matter. There's a figure that they might want. There's a figure that actually they might need, but they're both irrelevant. It's what the market dictates. It's as simple as that. And
don't be afraid to walk away either. That's the other thing I was going to say, is that when I do a valuation, if you want to call it a valuation, I mean, let's call it what it is, right? You have the conversation with people, and their expectations maybe they need 1.4, 1.5 to stick a certain amount in the bank and make their next move, or it doesn't need to be that sort of level. Even if you're talking 800 grand, like if you're talking 700-800 grand, we need 800 so we can buy for 550 and we can realize our plans. If the data is looking more like 7 to 725, I would be saying to them, maybe you need to realign your expectations, or maybe now's not a good time to move. What, and it's all about finding. We always talk about it. That why. What is their motivation to move? Is their why realistic as well? And sometimes, you can win the best business by unpacking the seller's actual plans and saying, well, look, is that realistic? You want to buy X, Y, and Z. You want to trade. You want the same house basically with 200 grand in the bank. Well, don't we all? Have you heard of Bolton, madam? But jokes aside, it's about unpacking that why. Sorry, Dave, you were just about to say something.
No, I wasn't. I was just taking a sip of Diet Coke.
And which reminds, this podcast is sponsored by Diet Coke. Quote Dave 10 for a discount. It's not. Yeah.
I do. I mean, look, everything you're saying is correct. I just think that you need to understand what it is that they are trying to achieve ultimately, and this is, I think, the mistake. And so many agents do it. They're going in there with best price guide comparables for homes and telling them all about themselves, giving an opinion on value and losing the owner. And I think educating the owner is the key thing. I don't, particularly the mid to higher end. I mean, I don't want to discredit the lower end of the market. I've got a business that operates in it, but they just want the truth, and they want to know that somebody who is handling their sale knows what they're talking about. And then it's up to them to make informed decisions. I had a seller review with someone yesterday. His house is above what I think it's worth. Or certainly, again, that's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? It's worth what the market dictates. I think it's above that, what he's listed it at. It is an unbelievable finish, this house, and he is on one of the best roads. But at the moment, the market doesn't agree. And the conversation we had yesterday was, well, I have sold one around the corner that's a similar size. It might not be as desirable, but it's sold for £200,000 less than what you're asking. What is your priority? Do you need to get this away? It's an empty house. You're on the other side of the world. What do you want to do with it? And his mindset is, I've put so much into it. I do not want to sell it for that kind of level. Certainly not at the moment. So the conversation is geared towards, well, if you wait, you might lose value. If you wait, who knows? It might rise in value. We don't know. The barrel of oil came down recently, isn't it? The last few days. We're back to pre-war values, interest rates. A few of the lenders are adjusted straight away. We might just have a purple patch and he finds the right buyer. I don't know. But you might also
you might not.
renting it. Yeah, exactly. This is all the unknown. We can only deal with what we're dealing with today. And right now the market doesn't agree. So if it doesn't work for you, have you considered renting it perhaps for 6 to 12 months? And that's a new conversation that we've started. So it all comes down to them, but they just need to know they're in good hands, that you're going to tell them the truth and align. I think just align that valuation. If you're coming in with your data value and it's 5 or 10% above, don't pop open the champagne. If it's 5 to 10% below, don't be disheartened. The market dictates. It's all about how we promote the salient assets of your home to the target audience, that we think will buy it.
So we're going to be writing, obviously, our more quarterly market update very, very soon. What do you think are going to be the bits that we're going to be? I mean, we kind of briefly touched on this the other day about what we're thinking it's going to be in terms of where we're writing and what we're writing about. So we've got obviously leadership change that's happening. There's these are all things that you need to talk about in the living room, right? So when I was there yesterday, we were talking about this stamp duty land tax reform to do with the percentage of the land value as a yearly what was I going to say? Yeah, as a yearly cost, like a council tax cost. And I mean, there's different ways that you can unpack it, and there's different ways I think it could have an effect on the market. And the first thing is, let's look at the positives from all angles. So the positives from all angles are, for first-time buyers, it's less equity up front. First-time buyers are always the people that this might be slightly controversial, but first time everyone's like, oh, it's really hard for people to get on the ladder these days, isn't it? If you had £1 for every time you heard that. But I actually don't think, if I'm honest, the lower end of the market is the problem at the moment. Where I think the biggest challenge in the market is the mid-market. So where I am, that is the gold dust between 500 and 1 million, because those are the people that have been hit the hardest. So they're trying to upsize. They need the extra bedroom. They want to move because the kids are getting older. They want a bit more space around them. And if they're buying, let's say that they bought their 500k house or 600k house in 2020, and they had a 400 grand mortgage. They're paying £1,000 a month, whereas now with interest rates the way they are, they're paying double that. Sometimes 2.5 times that. So £1,000 becomes 2.5 grand. Then you've got the compound inflation. So aggregated inflation at like 38% now over the last 6 years. So to contextualize that, if you go into the supermarket trying to feed a family of 4, back in 2020, you could probably feed a family for 70, 80 quid in Aldi, 100 quid in Marks and Sparks. Whereas now, again, you could probably double that, if not more. Fuel's more expensive, electricity's more expensive. Everything's just gone up. So I do feel like there's a big barrier with that stamp duty. So if you're looking to go from 600 to 800, there's another 30, 40k that you've got to find cash that you can't mortgage. And I do feel like that barrier to entry would definitely help on that, because 30, 40 grand's a new kitchen, it's a new bathroom, like it's loads, it's moving fees, it's cash that is tied up in equity that could be utilized for better things for the sort of broader economic picture. The other thing as well is, from a positive spin from the housing market, perhaps not so positive for the people that own these sorts of homes, but I've seen the argument about people in, I don't know, Blackpool, for example, that are in houses at, 350 grand are on higher council tax rates. So somebody in Blackpool could be in a house at 350k and paying $2,500 a year, and somebody can be, in London not in a high rise, but in a 1-bedroom apartment that's worth 1.6 million on band A, paying, 1,800 quid a year, for example. I mean, I don't know the rates in those areas, but I just saw that's an example I saw online. And if those people are then hit with a yearly charge, I mean, that's the extreme example. But I do think the upper end, so those generational homes where people have lived in them for 80 years, and you've got Ethel rattling around in the sort of £3.5, £4 million house that, really should move, but, hasn't necessarily got the desire to move because she's always been there, was all of a sudden hit with an £8,000 a year additional bill, and she doesn't really want to pay. That's going to almost force their hand to move. And those bigger homes are then going to be unlocked for people to move in the market, and there's going to be more people moving in the market. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, with stamp duty and things like that, I've always thought it needs reform anyway. I think it will help to get the market moving. It's a massive consideration for people, isn't it, when they're buying homes? I mean, even the second, a lot of the stuff people we deal with at the top end of the market, as you know, JK, will have second home stamp duty as well, and they factor that in when they're buying. But I mean, if we're talking about sort of content of letter and what's affecting the market and all that sort of stuff, it's just, to me, it's just the usual stuff, and a lot of it's noise. Interest rates are still historically low. The cost of moving is a problem for people, of course. Sorry, the cost of living is a problem for people. Yes, everything that you've just said is valid, and costs are rising. So it's something that we need to be aware of, but it's no different. There's always something, whether it's stamp duty changes, whether it's a new government, Andy Burnham coming in, whether it's a World Cup, Wimbledon. We're coming up to that season now, aren't we? Where estate agents will be saying your house is not selling because Wimbledon's on.
Yeah.
There's always something. And the reality is, unless, I mean, I'm going to caveat this in a minute, but unless there is a major recession from poor financial decisions and a bit of a financial crash, the market will always move. And the fluctuation in the number of sales and values, etc., will be up and down always. But the buyers are out there. So I think homeowners just need to know what is affecting buyers' decisions. So, we'll be focusing on the fact that, the Middle East has caused a bit of a confidence problem. It has. There's no question about that, because interest rates became a bit more expensive over the last few months. But the outlook is a little bit brighter, particularly as a barrel of oil has just come down. And immediately in the same week, a few of the major lenders started shifting their interest rates, and they came down a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's quite a bit of confidence there. I think obviously, the leadership change and the government that everybody's had enough of is, again, more noise. But we know as estate agents, it does impact activity, because we've seen it so many times. Like when we saw it last time, what was it, last year? We had the budget coming up.
Budget, yeah.
Yeah, and it slowed right down. The market did slow down leading up to it. But guess what? Properties were still selling. But they did slow down, and then we had the interest rate drop at the end of the year. We came back in January, and it was absolutely buzzing, one of the busiest markets we've had for years, January and February. And then Donald Trump entered the mix end of February, and it slowed down again. So it's just peaks and troughs that you've got to manage. And if you choose to sell in this market, you've got to choose to sell in the conditions that are you've got to choose a strategy for the market that you're in. And I think that's always the message. So it's just about delivering. It's not about predicting the future. It's about delivering what's happening right now and what might impact someone's move and their decision to buy.
Well, you say to people, you're not your time. It's not your time in the market. You can't time the market. It's your time in the market. So if you are looking to move now and you're exiting the market, then there's an argument to say that, you really want to wait for a rising hot market. Now, is that going to be in a year's time? Is it going to be in 3 months' time? Is it going to be in 5 years' time? The point is, nobody knows. But when that market does come, you need to be ready to strike. if you're exiting the market, but you just don't know when that's going to be. Also equally, if you end up waiting forever, you could wait for that hot market to happen. Prices could drop, let's say, I mean, they won't, but prices could drop 20% in the meantime. Then a hot market comes along, which causes the prices to rise, prices to rise back up to where they were after you've been waiting for 5 years. So I think the message I say to a lot of people is that, no one lives forever. It sound like quite a morbid thing, but at the end of the day, let's get on with your life plans, and it really resonated. I won a listing the other day because they're really impressed by the pre-launch strategy and the technique and the data valuation, etc. But I think they were just impressed with how candid I was. And then, because they were like, should we keep hold of the house? Should we rent it for a little while and wait until market conditions improve? I said, well, you've actually just bought another house elsewhere. So you're buying in this market already, and you just said to yourself, you're getting a good deal. If the market then drops, hypothetically, you rent the house out and the market drops by 10% in 6 months, then you decide that actually, you could do with claiming that stamp duty back on the next house. Like you've already missed that boat. So really what you need to do now is get your house on, and we need to sell your house. And this is how we're going to do it. And the data kind of suggests it's going to be at this sort of level. But what we can do is with the pre-launch strategy, we can test it before we go to Rightmove and see where it sits within the market, and then we can call it. So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, and so the other thing that we're doing as well at the moment, just to add a little bit more value, is we're doing viewings on shoot days as well. I think you've done a few of those as well, where we've got, because it takes us a little while to get them to market. It's going to be at least a week and a half, 2 weeks sometimes to get some places to market. Getting viewings to your database. So, this is coming on the market. For more information, get in touch. And then a little broadcast message goes out, or WhatsApp message goes out, or, just working with good buyers. And then we're doing viewings on the day, and it's all about that perception, isn't it, to sellers as well. We've not even done a pre-launch. That hasn't been filmed yet, but already people are coming round. And a guy I went to yesterday, he said, the reason you're here is because of your letter. I like your letter. He goes, but I can see that you're doing more, because I've been watching the social media preview tours, and that was kind of the catalyst. And this is quite a new thing for us. That was a catalyst for him ringing us, because he said I was on the market with, ironically, with one of our main competitors before when they sold their last house 8 years ago. And he said it felt very much like they put it on Rightmove and they sent a photographer around. No one came to the house, did the floor plan, and they just kind of waited for it to sell. Sometimes they had the odd call. Oh, sorry, we're a bit busy today. Can you show them around? And he just said that I just got a good vibe. And because one of the first questions he asked me, he said, if we do decide we want to make this move, how long is your contract? And I said, we work on a rolling 14 days. We charge an upfront fee. And he says, well, do you charge the upfront fee after every time the contract rolls? I said, no, not at all. It's just, and it doesn't really scratch the surface, to be honest, but it's just a commitment fee to go to the market. It's going to cost us 3.5, 4K to get you marketed. And it's just a small commitment fee because of the level of effort we go to, and also the fact that you're not tied in. Anyway, he was really impressed. And I think that's one in the bag when the time's right for them. Just having those, it's being a better agent. You can talk about ethics and this, that, and the other, but just I feel now with everything we do in TCA, things that I picked up from you and Ian, and I'm sure there's been things that we've picked up from each other, vice versa. I just feel like I'm top of my game at the moment in terms of I'm a professional agent. I know the data. I know what to tell people is sort of the best advice. I know how to extract their why out of them, and I just feel like I'm in a good place at the moment.
Yeah, and you can tell. I mean, I think you just said something there, and it's so simple. Just be a good agent, and what that means to me is, I think you need to understand your local market inside out.
Yeah,
and understand what the market is actually doing in your local postcode area. So the news will tell you something different to what your micro postcode might be. So where I live in Bolton, very big town, and overall it might look like property prices have actually gone up over the last 12 months. And that's what general public will think. And when you go to their house, they might have read a report that says, "Oh, Bolton's gone up, hasn't it?" But actually, I'm in your a postcode, BL64, which is one of the worst affected postcodes in Greater Manchester.
You're going to say one of the worst postcodes in Manchester.
Yeah, that as well. No, it's not actually. It's a lovely area, but it has been one of the worst affected areas in Greater Manchester. And most people I'm meeting, pretty much all people I'm meeting who live in this postcode, have no idea. So you need to. That's it. So understand your local market. Be honest about the local market. Understand the demographic of buyer for your local market, and articulate this to your homeowner. And if they want to listen to you, great, you'll have some success and work with them. If they don't want to listen to you, it's usually a red flag. And for me, that's what it's all about, JK. Being personable, being honest, and being knowledgeable. And if you can get those things right, then you'll be a good agent. But you've got to get the first bit right. You've got to know your market.
100%.
You've got to know your local market, and you can't be afraid to just tell people. I went to a valuation yesterday, but just about gold dust. It's a £450,000 townhouse, lovely house. Next door is on the market at 425,000. It's been rented out. Garden's not great, not very well presented. That's probably got a late 3 in front of it. This one I've got, all the data's like 425. 450 would be a win, an absolute win. And when I revealed the market valuation, what the market dictates, they both looked at each other and started nodding. And I said, right, okay, what were your hopes and dreams for this property? She said, well, yeah, that's, to be honest, before we started all this, we thought 450, maybe a little bit less. And I said, yeah, 450 would be punching. But do you mind me asking what the sort of in-joke is? They were both laughing at each other. And the previous agent who's quite local and knows the market, or should know the market, was telling him it's 525,000. It's just miles off. I just don't. There's absolutely no explanation for where that number comes from. But this particular agent is very, very well known in the area. They are very local to the area, and on the back of presenting data, all I've done is really backed up what they thought as well. They have got a little bit of a handle on the market. They've not been wowed by somebody telling them something too much. They appreciate the honesty. They've got plans, and they're important plans. It's unfortunate circumstances where this couple have found themselves, and they need to sell this house, and they've got somebody going in there telling them the house is possibly worth £75,000 to £100,000 more than it is. And to me, that's negligent. What if this couple take that advice, go and speak to their financial advisor, do a load of sums, think about their move that they need to make, and then go on the market and sit there for 6, 12, 18 months, having to make more mortgage payments, council tax payments, completely blindsided, and end up having to totally restructure their lives and moves over the fact that somebody just didn't bother doing the homework and didn't understand the market. I think it's really poor. So just be a good agent. Understand your local market. Tell people about it, and be a good marketeer.
Yeah, as simple as that, really. But just be a good agent. No, could you, just to contextualize it just very quickly before we wrap things up, can you imagine going to like a brain surgeon and, saying, right, brilliant, we're going to get my brain surgery underway, what are my chances? Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, no worries. And so, how does this process work? Well, we just open you up, cut a few bits and pieces out, and then we sew you back up. Like that is the level, and we're talking about someone's most valuable tax-free asset. if you contextualize, and I sometimes say that to sellers, I use the brain surgery analogy sometimes and say, there's brain surgeons. I mean, no disrespect to brain surgeons, I'm sure there's no brain surgeons out there like that. Certainly not in this country anyway. But that is kind of almost that sometimes a lot of sellers treat their equity with a huge lack of respect, just looking for sometimes just searching for the cheapest fee. And the cheapest fee can often be the most expensive because you just don't end up with the right result. As your lady found out, your gentleman, found out with, the other valuation at 900K. That's where I think it should be, because this is, again, opinions. Data doesn't care about opinions. And here he is later on, 40K plus down because of somebody else's opinion. So the data is the data. Opinions are just exactly what they say they are. And hopefully this has been a valuable weekly podcast, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. Anything else, Dave?
Before we go, England won last night, 2-1.
Indeed.
Mexico on Monday early hours. What are your predictions for that game and the rest of the tournament?
My predictions for that game is that we will probably end up losing. I've got to be honest. Based on the result in the last game. Having said that, I can just see so many people turning off now, by the way. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We're having fun. My prediction is I think he needs to sort out the right back role. I don't think Ezri Konsa should be anywhere near centre back. I think Ezri Konsa, if he's going to be in the back line, needs to be right back. Mark Gay, John Stones, centre back. Nico Riley. Again, they've got 3 Man City players at the back there, all used to playing with each other, all used to communicating, although Mark Gay is relatively new. And then you can put Rice and Anderson in front. Anderson didn't have a great game the other night, but he's still pretty solid. I think then Bellingham goes in front. Then I have to say, I think obviously Harry has to start up top. And I mean, for me, again, this will be controversial. I'm sure I'll get lots of hate mail for this, but Bukayo Saka is miles clear of Noni Madueke. Noni Madueke, he is the English Timo Werner. Like, he'd run and then literally run to the byline, not take his man on, and then just pass back. It just frustrates me. Marcus Rashford didn't have an amazing game, but at least he's trying to make things happen. At least he's trying to beat his man. I
do think Anthony Gordon started the first 2 games and didn't do very well. Came on last night and did really well.
Yeah.
I have to say, I possibly would start Gordon over Rashford, only because Rashford stretches defences. Yeah. So later in the game, I think Rashford would be a better option. You'd hate to have him running at you the way he does and running in behind. So maybe that. I hear what you said about Madueke, but again, quite controversial. I just don't think Saka is fit.
No, he's not.
There was one when he just come on yesterday. I don't know whether you remember it, but the ball was launched over to him, quite a routine ball to control.
Yeah.
Went for a throw in, and then
I saw that. Yeah.
He's not at it. And so many times over the years, you'll think back to when Beckham did his metatarsal and Rooney did the same, and we rushed them back, and they just had crap tournaments. And what I would credit Tuchel with is that he's not tried to put square pegs in round holes. He's just picking people on form. I just think he's made a couple of errors with the selection. For me, Harry Maguire should be there, not just there. He should start every game. I'm a United fan. I don't think Maguire is the best defender in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but he's experienced at international level. He's a good player. He's reliable. He's fit.
Yeah,
and I think he would have been brilliant. And there must be something with Trent. I know he's not the greatest defender, but his delivery is unbelievable. And I can't believe we now don't have a follow-up right back, a backup right back. It's just strange for me.
I must admit, Harry Maguire definitely should have been on the plane, in my opinion, regardless of what you think about him in the league. I don't think Jed Spence should be anywhere near the plane, especially based on last night. He just not at the level.
No, he's not.
I'd have had Luke Shaw and played him at right back over Jed Spence, I'll be honest.
This is the funny thing. I mean, you've got Reece James on his day is probably the best right back in the country. But when Thomas Tuchel said after the game, like, no one saw that coming, Reece James getting injured, I'm thinking he's the most injury-prone right back I've ever seen.
I love Reece. Like, he's my captain. But I just, He's made of glass, unfortunately.
He is. He absolutely is. And, everybody saw that coming. And Luke Shaw has had his best season in the United shirt. He's pretty much played, I think he played every game. So he was on form. So I don't know why he didn't go, really, personally. I do like Nico Riley, but defensively, I think Shaw's a bit better. This is the TCA podcast, if you still listen to it, by the way. This is a bit of the World
This
Cup.
is not the Gary Neville podcast.
No,
not
sorry.
Gary Neville and Alan Shearer talking.
But no, I think...
who do you see winning it? So just to cap off, who wins the tournament?
Do you know what, right? Before the tournament started, I said, I think there might be a surprise winner this year. And at the moment, you'd go, well, the surprise package might be Mexico. I just thought climate, all that sort of stuff. I just had a feeling for it. And then you see people like Germany going out. Be interesting to see how Spain get on later. Holland are out, but I didn't expect them to do much anyway. But, France obviously are just absolutely unbelievable, and they've adapted really well. Their front three is unreal. They've got I've got to
be honest. You say that like you say, their front three is unreal, but I do feel like they're fragile at the back.
You can get at them, but it's if you can get the ball off them. I think that's the problem. And
Michael Elise, by the way, what a player!
Right. So let's have a look at this. Michael Elise up against Nico Riley defensively, and then on the other side you've got Mbappe going up against who? We've got no one at the minute.
Well, I think it's got to be Declan Rice, isn't it?
Possibly Declan Rice, but he's absolutely rapid. So it's difficult.
Or Ezri Konsa then, realistically, isn't it? It's got to be Konsa.
Well, yeah.
I reckon, because obviously I know Tuchel well from when he was at Chelsea. I have a feeling if we do end up playing France, and if he played France in the final, I reckon we would go 3-5-2.
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think if we get past Mexico on Monday morning, I think
we probably won't.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest stumbling block. I think we get to the final because I think we've got Brazil after that.
Yeah.
If they get through, and I don't know that Brazil are not Brazil.
No,
they're not Brazil.
We're not talking about Ronaldo, Ronaldinho,
No.
Rivaldo. No. It's not the Roberto Carlos era, is it?
No, I think we beat Brazil, and therefore we get to the final. I just don't think we'll have enough to beat France. So I would say, and my prediction is probably, I'd like to say it's going to be a France-England final just because I'm patriotic, but I am worried about Monday's game. And I've got a feeling Mexico might do us. If they do, I think it's a Mexico-France final that France will win. I think something about Mexico. We'll see. But, that's my prediction. Thank you for everybody for listening for the last 10 minutes.
This is the Overlap podcast, the complete Overlap podcast with Gary Neville and Gary Lineker.
Loads of people have switched off anyway. It's just me.
They have, yeah. Just Nick Luntley.
I was just going to say, Nick Luntley's still there. Cheers for listening, Nick. Yeah. Right. How did Chelsea do this season, Nick? Yeah, you went quiet again, mate. You went quiet again.
Really good. Just as well as Man United did.
A lot better than I did.
Huh?
Saying my father-in-law is a Chelsea fan. He bet me at the start of the season that Chelsea would finish high at £100, and that dropped in my account just at the end of the season there. So shout out to Chelsea. Thank you very much.
Right. We'll see you all next week if you're still listening. And we look forward to it.
Cheers, guys.